And it was too long. Deleted it. Everyone nodded their heads up and down like porpoises at SeaWorld. The sheriff dismissed the meeting and reminded everyone to return next week, and then asked a few people to accompany him to his office to discuss a training plan. On the way there, Mark pulled the lawman off to the side. "You blindsided me, Kurt. I didn't want to be a part of this." "I'm sorry. I was afraid if I told you what I really wanted, you wouldn't show up." "I can see now I was probably right." Mark just glared at him. "Look, Mark, whether you wanted to be involved in this or not, you are. You were involved before I asked you here. You were involved before those assholes in that truck tried to kill you. You were involved as soon as the lights went out. You're just beginning to realize how involved you are, and that's what you're mad about. Now you just need to accept the fact that you're in this up to your eyebrows and deal with it," Kurt said, smiling. "Now let's get to work." Mark looked down at his boots. "I guess you're right. I'm involved up to here." He held his hand even with the top of his thinning hair. "You're not the first person to tell me this, so I guess I better learn to accept it, but that doesn't mean I have to like it." The lawman laughed. When they got into the sheriff's office, Mark recognized everyone but the man standing next to Greg. The sheriff introduced him as Greg's lieutenant, Rob Bowers. The lawman then turned to Ralph, whom he'd also asked to see. "Counselor, I have some info on the guys who attacked your house. Have you ever heard of the name Lee Ray Jenkins?" The big lawyer rubbed his chin for a moment. "That sounds familiar. Oh yeah, he was the Klan boy I put away for beating up an old black man during Fiesta one year. That was back in the late 1980s, I think. That's the one. Turns out our ringleader the other night is his baby brother looking to get even for his brother spending the rest of his life in jail. Jenkins only got 5 years. He should have been out long ago." "That's not how it worked out, Ralph. Seems she got shanked in the shower one night and died a couple days later." "I see." Ralph seemed sad that the Klansman had died. Mark wondered why a black man would be sorry that some KKer had died. He didn't think he would be if he was in Ralph's shoes. Kurt addressed the group with his main topic. "I've already talked with the county commissioners and the mayor about starting our militia. At first, they wanted me to deputize an additional 100 men. I told them I didn't have the equipment to supply that many people with the minimum amount of gear required to do the job. Plus, transportation would be a major problem. We only have 12 running patrol cars. Finally, the state requirements for being a deputy sheriff necessitate a peace officer's commission, and there's no one in the county authorized to teach the class. In the end, they agreed that having a militia was the best solution. I hope to get 5 or 6 more groups like you all have. If they're spread out over the county, it would give us the ability for each group to cover a section and call the sheriff's department for backup. What we need to do is talk about how we're going to train the people who volunteer. Mark, your group is the biggest. Would you mind sharing what y'all are doing? Gunny's actually in charge of our security detail. Why don't we let him fill you in? Gunny?" The grizzled veteran told about the training schedule he'd set up. Members of their security detail spent about 8 hours a week in training. 2 with Mark on fitness and unarmed self-defense, 2 with Jim on marksmanship, and 4 with him on anything and everything else. Gunny also told them how he conducted drills while the men and women, he was reminded, were on duty. Once Gunny was finished describing their training program, Kurt asked Greg to fill everyone in on their program. Greg turned the floor over to Rob. And I think I'm going to stop there.